The great thing about today's build is that the completionist in me can finally get some rest because we are finally finishing this Cyberpunk apartment block lot build, which has just turned into such a giant here. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I thought I would be able to fit it in one episode. Well, here we are in part 3 of the build. So let's dive into it, right? Now, for those of you just discovering this space, my name is Michael, and you have landed in Sovereign Sandboxing, the YouTube channel where we build, play, and reflect on video games that let us shape our own story. And we are back in my SimCity project here in The Sims 3, where we are building things out one lot at a time. And as I mentioned before, I am a bit of a completionist here, and as I was wrapping up the filming of this episode, I pretty much feel like I've used every object under the sun within The Sims 3. So I am, my head is kind of spinning after filming this last part of the build here. And I'm not too sure if I ended off on a strong note per se. Like, I think I do it justice, don't get me wrong, but I feel like there were some opportunities where I could have taken things to the next level at certain aspects of the build. So what's on the agenda for today? Well, as this would suggest, we are finishing off the Cyberpunk apartment block build, and I have 2 more buildings to go. At the time that I was first filming this lot build, I thought that I would be able to do it all in one episode. Well, you know, joke's on me. There is just way too much content and way too much there's way too much to try to fit into one episode, so that was just not going to be likely. The thing with the thing with this lot is that essentially there are 6 buildings that are located right on this single lot here, and I really had to dive deep and really try to justify each of the structures that you see here. So in the first part, we had built out a restaurant slash bar. Actually, it's not a restaurant at all. It's a karaoke bar, excuse me. So we built that out. We had a nice gym that sits on top of it. Plus, we also had the mechanic garage. So there was a lot that we had to really focus in on in terms of that first part there. And as I was building it, it just really dawned on me that there was no way I was going to be able to build it all in one episode, not without making it the length of a Lord of the Rings movie. And I just don't think that my videos need their limits, that's for sure. And I try to cap it at the hour there. So that was something that I kind of discovered along the way there. And what that really means is that there's a huge concentration of details and really thought out parts of this particular lot. I play with levels and elevations, as you would have seen in the first part and also part 2, where we finally built out the Ripper Dock as well as the laundromat lot. So there was a lot of playing with levels and everything, and yeah, that's really kind of how it all turned out to be. And the thing is that this lot has been exhausting for me to play through, for me to build, I should say. It has really tested me in terms of like being able to stick with one theme, being that this is very Cyberpunk 2077 inspired, and try to find, you know, every nook and cranny to try and fill out a spot to actually try to emulate that little piece of the world within this lot. And so, you know, I'm just a little fatigued and exhausted by it, which is probably why when we get around to building as you're going to see right before your eyes, as I build the last remaining structures of this lot, I really start to lose momentum here, you guys. And a big part of it is actually because the game did crash on me, which is rare for that to ever happen to me. But my game actually did crash on me, and I lost a lot of progress. Specifically, I lost a lot of progress, and I had to pretty much do it all over again. Now, usually what that means for me personally is that things get built better, and, you know, I guess I will give myself credit there, but I'm very fatigued by this lot. I've been spending hours upon hours building this particular lot, and yeah, I'm ready to move on, to say the very least. Okay, so let me actually talk about the structure that I'm going to be constructing here. So this is yet another series of structures within this particular block, which just lies at the center and southern portion of this lot. And the very first thing that I needed to add was, of course, a casino. A casino is very Cyberpunk 2077. I believe that they have at least one, if not two, casinos within Cyberpunk 2077. But anyways, I actually decided to depart away from that particular reference because I actually really love the Lucky Simoleon. I really love the Lucky Simoleon venue set that came from the Sims 3 store. And when that lot was released, I really loved the octopus, I guess the octopus mascot that they had included with that set. And so I really wanted to incorporate it here because this was just going to be a much smaller scale casino, and I wanted to build the lot around the octopus and the octopus's colors, because when you switch the colors out for different gaming tables, or even the slot machine, like it completely erases the octopus. Plus, like, there was this huge, I guess, sign. Yeah, it would be a sign. This huge sign that lights up at night that has the octopus on it. And like, this is the only time I'm going to be able to actually get to use this, you guys. So in a way that makes sense, at least. So I wanted to absolutely make the casino reminiscent of the Lucky Simoleon casino, so there's actually a legitimate Sims 3 reference within this. However, with the interior, I absolutely did decide to cyberpunk it up a little bit, so it's got metal walls, metal floors, and there's a lot of fluorescent lights in there that really help to capture that particular reference in a way that combines it with the Sims 3 Lucky Simoleon casino venue objects. So I really love the way that it turned out. To me, it feels very futuristic, and that's the thing as well that you guys are going to continue to see throughout the remainder of this build, is that this, like, the big secret, I suppose, is that all you have to do is change the colors of your lights and make sure that they are like those neon light bars, or, you know, or what have you. And that's kind of a way to just change the entire room itself. So that's sort of been the secret that I have been openly building with, because these are speed builds after all, and I get a chance to talk about them. So yeah. If there is one thing that I guess hindsight is 2020, so I don't want to even call this a regret really, but in hindsight, if I were to build a version 2 of the SimCity world, I would absolutely, and you guys are going to kind of laugh and be very concerned for me, but I would actually add a few more lots into the world. Namely, I would like to add another large venue lot, because there's a cool one from Stardew Valley, if I remember correctly, from the Showtime expansion pack. There's an expo center there that I think would look great, and I would love to build out a real entertainment center. But the other reason why I would like to add another commercial lot would be to include a proper casino space. I feel like the casino objects that came with the Lucky Palms world and with the Lucky Simoleon are very underrated. You build a real skill with it, which is the gambling skill. And you know, that is up for debate whether that's actually a skill or not in the real world. But anyways, I would like to actually build a real casino, but I didn't really leave any room for it in this particular world. But knowing how it runs within my game, and knowing how it runs overall, I think that I would, like for a version 2 of SimCity, I would really consider putting in a few more commercial lots just to build out like a real entertainment district within SimCity here. And you know, for a designation for a casino lot, I would really consider making it a large venue and actually having like more performances there, because this world has a lot of live, well, not a lot, but it has a fair amount of live venues. It has like a coffee house lot build that I did like way before, which is technically a Showtime lot classification. So I would like to offer more big venues to this world, just within that kind of capacity. I might have to make it a private venue, actually, now that I think about it, which would be okay too. I'd be very open to that, just because the large venues are kind of hard to construct, or at least they're a little more complicated than what meets the eye. But anyways, that's me kind of living in fantasy world. I'm nowhere near developing a V2 of my SimCity world. There are some pretty big changes that I would put on the docket, and I know I've actually spoken about it a little bit in part 2 of the Cyberpunk block build, but I guess because I'm working with futuristic themes within this lot, I'm now talking about the future. Anyways, that is something that would be on the docket. I have to do a couple of larger changes as well to this world, because there are some things that I would actually reconsider doing now that I see how the city is laid out and everything. And yeah, there are a couple of changes I would make, some large changes too. But yeah, I love how the way that this casino has turned out. It's likely going to be the only casino within SimCity, and with the octopus from the Lucky Simoleon venue having its own object dedicated towards it, it just really fit the vibe. And that's another thing as well, is that I know the lots that are going to be built directly south of this of the Cyberpunk block here, and it does actually cover up quite a bit of the ground floor and the first floor and a little bit of the second and third. I'm not going to give too much away, because that build is it's a little ways away. Like, I think I might actually be able to get to it by the end of this year, but it is a build I am looking forward to as well. But anyways, like, I have taken into consideration like how each of these lots are going to interact with each other to an extent. Now, this lot might be more of a unique standout within the Far East Square. However, the lot right beside it may hopefully tie things in together within Far East Square. So we'll just kind of see how that turns out. But so far I've been pretty good with having one lot relate to another. So we'll just kind of see if that turns out after we finish off the Far East Square neighborhood with the final remaining lot build there. And I'll talk a little more about that a little bit later on, I suppose. So yeah, I needed to make another series of buildings. This needed to be a bunch of like commercial units with some of those lovely container homes stacked on top. I even added in a digital tattoo parlor. I've never actually used this object before, but the testing proves that it can be used within this lot. So I decided to place it in. It felt futuristic. It felt like it would fit the vibe, and it was something unique that you wouldn't be getting from other lots. And I don't ever anticipate using the digital tattoo object ever again. So it appeals to the completionist in me once again. As for the lower part of this lot that faces directly onto the pathway, I kind of did a little bit of a cop out and I made it a garbage area. Does kind of make sense to have a garbage area, although I have been pretty liberal about the garbage props that I have been using throughout this entire lot here, because I do want it to come across as a little more grungy and dingier. So I did cop out and I made this into like a utility garbage pickup area. If you guys have suggestions, feel free to suggest them below. But clearly the lower level that faces the pathway is something that I was just running out of momentum trying to figure out and trying to provide some sort of a unique experience. It's like the lots that overhang this lower area are too, like, it's not enough headroom for me to put in proper trees and proper like treescaping within this lot, but it's also very dark as well, and I don't really think it's particularly that inviting. But you know, if there is an idea out there, or perhaps like if I come to revisit it during the edit episode, I'll definitely take another go at it, and I'll definitely figure something out, because one of the parts of this lot build that, you know, I do need to revisit because I was losing momentum, and yeah, I was losing momentum while building this lot, and that was clearly a reflection of it in that particular area. For one of the other commercial units, I decided to make it a hibachi grill restaurant. I'm not a huge fan with the way that it turned out. I am a fan of the idea. Originally, I wanted to put the hibachi grill out in the courtyard and make it more like a shack that's just out in the courtyard. However, I decided, well, I just honestly, you guys, ran out of ideas here, and I had the hibachi grill object just staring at me in the face. And so I just had to make this commercial unit a hibachi grill restaurant. Again, with the hibachi grill, unfortunately, you can't hire chefs, for those of you that are unfamiliar with that particular object. So your Sims are going to have to cook there themselves. Unfortunately, this makes this a little bit of set dressing. However, this particular Cyberpunk block lot has really felt like set dressing. I almost called it cyber dressing, but it has felt a lot like set dressing for a lot of portions of this particular lot build. And, you know, admittedly, it was a necessary evil that I really had to commit in order to convey the look and feel that I wanted to. I knew from the Create a World days when I was creating this world that this was going to be a lot just like this. As soon as I saw Yukio's builds, I knew that I wanted to have my best interpretation possible in this particular space. So that has always been intentional. I knew going into this build that there was going to be a lot of set dressing. However, what I've tried to compensate for with the set dressing is that there are actual useful objects that your Sims can use, whether they either live on the slot themselves or they are just visiting. So for example, I believe, yeah, this is the only lot where you can actually build robots on your own. Now, I don't know if it's going to save the progress if you have a visiting sim that has to come later on, but, you know, the option is still there for your Sims to do. And who knows, maybe I will do some sort of a house build that's a little more futuristic, that has bot building capabilities. I'll kind of cross that bridge when I start running out of ideas, I suppose. But anyways, this particular hibachi grill was again another symptom showing up here where I really ran out of momentum. I really just needed to fill the commercial unit itself. There's really not a lot of thought put into it, and I do apologize for that. And I am obviously up for suggestions. And, you know, if I hate it this much, I might actually just turn this space into apartment units, because that is another very easy way out for me. And I decided to take the hibachi grill. So if you got suggestions, feel free to drop them in the comment section. So yeah, I should probably explain why I don't run out of momentum for other builds here. This is the case here. When I've done mansion builds like the Crumple Bottom Mansion and the Goth Manor build, those were builds that took me a very long time. Like, I had to actually take a break from YouTube actually building out those lots, because I would spend at least, you know, 2 hours a night. Okay, I don't know how much time I was spending, but I spent a lot of time doing those mansion builds, and this particular lot has demanded the same kind of care and attention that those lots have required as well. So building this lot has been a huge undertaking. Like I said, I didn't anticipate that I would need multiple episodes, and because I really want to deliver on a stronger summer schedule for my YouTube channel, I decided to just kind of power through this son of a bitch here. So, but yeah, I don't typically lose momentum for other builds, but when they're lengthier builds, like any kind of mansion build that I have done, I usually try to take a little bit of time off of YouTube so that I don't feel so pressured to have to deliver on it. And this is a case where I haven't done that. I've also got a lot going on with my life as well, so there's that there are real life changes going on right now that are also diverting my attention just a tiny bit here and there. No bad news or anything, but yeah, that's also at play. And I am like with this particular lot, although I have tried to, introduce a new theme here and there for some of the interior decor, like the bakery in this particular lot. It just really, like I'm still working with the same lot, putting in a lot of time into it, and it just doesn't feel fresh anymore for me, even after like walking away from it and everything. So yeah, this lot has been very fatiguing in terms of in terms of all of those factors here. And so yeah, I very much ran out of motivation when I was filming part 3, which is so stupid because at the end of part 2 I was very gung-ho about this. I thought that I was just going to knock this one out of the park, etc., etc. But no, I did not. Let's continue talking about it though. So on the second floor, I decided to put in a public greenhouse that's accessible through one of the apartments. Not the best idea in terms of accessibility, but just with the form that this particular structure was taking, being the 5th structure here, I kind of had no choice, and I didn't want to take any more space away from the courtyard because I feel like that courtyard is really, it is a gem in of itself. So I didn't want to take any space away from that. But yeah, there's a second floor greenhouse there. I had to place potted plants. So you have those pots from the Supernatural expansion pack that you can actually grow seeds out of. I think. I say this and I'm like, have I actually tested this myself? And I'm not too sure. But anyways, it's there for you guys. It is perfect for growing plants like in the middle of the city. Like if you have a sim that's got a green thumb and they want to plant some seeds but have no plots to plant them in, well, now you've got pots to plant them in as opposed to plots. So here you go. Here's some additional gameplay that I can offer within a space within this very complex build here. So, you have that kind of option available to you as the player. In fact, like if you have a family or a sim that lives on this lot, like I think that you're going to be very impressed with how many different stories that you can tell from this one lot. Like you can have a sim or a family here where one's into tinkering, or maybe one's like an inventor or somebody who's a robot maker. Perhaps there's someone who's looking to grow other stuff, or grow all of their food, and they're trying to fight against all of this technocracy. So yeah, there's all of that there too. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the one space of this lot where I think that the most gameplay is going to occur, and that is going to be in the last structure that we build in the southwest corner. And yeah, I took a lot of inspiration from Yukio's container home build for this one. I love the way that they had them staggered and stacked, and although mine is definitely not a 1-for-1 replica of it because I had to build within the confines of my lot, their video definitely served as the key point of inspiration here. And I wanted to have staggered stacked containers as the apartment complex this whole time. So throughout part 1 and part 2, I have been putting in some container home apartment units here and there just to kind of convey the story that, maybe this started out as, the casino, and then it developed into another thing. And it was just like this hodgepodge of governments changing hands and developers changing hands. And so then you've got this melting pot of different approaches and different ideas all fitting onto this one lot that somehow works. So yeah, that was the idea with introducing the container homes elsewhere, is that I knew that this corner was going to be a stack of container homes, and I wanted that motif continued throughout the entirety of this lot, not concentrated in one corner. Let's talk a little bit about yeah, actually, something neat that I was doing as I was building out this lot is I kind of discovered the roller coaster objects from Roaring Heights. They've kind of been beckoning me to use them for whatever reason. Again, it must be the completionist in me that is hearing the objects speak to him. But the Roaring Heights expansion pack allows you to build your own roller coasters. Now, in the game, roller coaster objects, like the I don't know what the proper terminology is, so please forgive me here, but I believe that the braces for it, the braces and the actual structural component of the roller coaster is all located within the column section, which is very interesting. Now, what's even more interesting about this object is that when I set the column level to, you know, so that I was going to use columns that spanned 2 floors up, it changes the Roaring Heights roller coaster object quite significantly. Like, you'll see me place this weird little curvy roller coaster object here and there, and that's because I needed to put it in there for placement purposes, and I'll kind of explain that a little later on here because I cut out a lot of that footage. But when I raised it to have a column level that spans 2 floors, it changed it to this really wonderful cross brace column, and I recolored it as a metal, and it looks completely industrial and like it fits the lot here. So I went around and retrofitted a bunch of little corners with these particular columns here. So that was something interesting that I discovered about the roller coaster objects within Roaring Heights, and I thought I would pass that along in case that is something that you guys didn't know. And, you know, it just goes to show that, well, for me at least, I'm always discovering something new about The Sims 3, even 15 years later, since the franchise has concluded. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of the apartment build, I had to do a couple of things in the courtyard and some things on the rooftop just to wrap things up a little bit as we make our way to that southwest corner. And to be fair though, I was also trying to pace myself in terms of the gameplay, just because I had a crash during the time that I was taking to build out this lot. I know I mentioned it already, but what I do in those cases is I try to minimize them as much as I can. And even though I think that it was just me clicking too much and drinking too much coffee the day that I was building it that kind of led to the crash, I don't want to take my chances because this lot is still very large. It is still very huge. It runs smooth like butter, which is why, you know, gaming laptop computers, like if you can afford it, like it's worth it to get it just to even run this game. Because I consider myself a decent holder of I consider myself someone that downloads a decent amount of downloadable content. That's what I was trying to say. And yeah, it still runs very smoothly for me. So I am not regretting my gaming laptop at all, which I did get a few years ago, mind you. But anyways, not trying to brag there, but I just wanted to mention that because it makes a huge difference when you are playing a game like The Sims or The Sims 3 in my case here, and having a very superior computer to run it makes a huge difference, or at least for me, I'm finding it is. So moving on though, back to the build here. I did skip out on a lot of footage of me just placing windows and the edge glow objects. It was a very, very tedious process, and I figured that it was one of those aspects of this build that didn't necessarily need me to record it, because it would have just been me jumping all around and placing a window and all of that. Speaking of which, like, there are some creators out there that can literally keep their camera in one spot and just finish that particular aspect of the build, whereas I need to know like how everything relates to each other, and I need to, you know, move around a lot and all of that. So, you know, I get that kind of camera work is dizzying, but I feel like these other awesome creators like know how to either just sit still and just get their builds done, and I just don't. And it's yeah, so I'm always like baffled and impressed whenever I watch those kind of videos, because they just like, it's just such a mind fuck to me. I'm like, I need to be looking around everywhere and seeing how it looks from this angle and that angle. Anyways, but yeah, I did skip out on the footage of the glow edges and the windows. It was very tedious. I had to place columns everywhere, which is what led to me discovering the roller coaster column objects from the Roaring Heights venue download. So yeah, it led to a very awesome discovery that I think helped to elevate this lot a whole lot more, because I ended up placing those in all kinds of places. But yeah, at first I thought, like, when I was doing the layout of the container apartment complex, at first I thought I was going to give the ground level container homes their own private entrances, and you'll see me actually build all that, and then you'll see me come to a sudden realization that, hey, this actually isn't going to work. And the reason why I need them to actually work is because I want them to function like apartments. And in the late night expansion pack, the way that apartments work is, you don't already know, you have to have a hidden room marker placed in an enclosed area, and that enclosed area needs to have a door that connects to a public marker, or an area that has a public marker placed in it. And then you shift click the door, and then you've got yourself, and then you just assign it as an NPC door, and then hopefully, you know, Sims will spawn and actually live on this unit, or sorry, live within that unit or on that lot. And it's really important for me to have those kinds of apartment layouts here because A, I think it's a little more realistic, but B, it just adds like extra nodes of activity in different areas of this lot. And I want this lot to feel very active. Now, given there is an abundance of apartment units within this particular corner of the lot, however, I have scattered them throughout. So I am activating spaces on like the second or third level of the garage mechanic shop, for example. I've also added some container homes on the second and third levels of some of the other structures that we have constructed in part 2. So, you know, if all of your NPCs spawn on this lot and make it their home, there's going to be a lot of activity of Sims literally going everywhere, and it's going to make this particular lot feel a lot busier, which is exactly what I had intended for it to do. It just activates these different parts of the lot, and I really, really wanted that. And I'll always, like, for a late night apartment lot build, I will always make sure to have at least 1 or 2 units for Sims to actually spawn and claim as their home. Another example, I guess, would be the investment condo build that I had done. Now that one I had to build within a late night shell, and long story short, I had to give them the NPC spawn a really skinny apartment, but I still wanted it there so that NPC Sims can actually live in that building, because to me, it doesn't make sense not to have neighbors in a high-rise building. But anyways, I'm totally getting distracted here. For the apartment complex itself, I'm obviously going to continue with the metal motifs. This is really the first time where it really makes sense for me to use metals for the interior, since I am going with that Cyberpunk 2077 style here. So those metal motifs are added in the common room there, and I kept it very basic. I used the Cambodian blinds, and maybe I overused them in this particular instance, but I'm just going to kind of give it a second glance. I'm going to give it some time before looking back on it, because as I am recording the audio for this episode, I have literally just finished this lot. So I need a little more time before I go back and, make some real critiques and edits here and there. And I've already got some stuff listed down here, you guys. Like, there was a ladder that disappeared that I'm not going to point out in the audio because it's so stupid that it disappeared, and it's going to be a hassle for me to edit in. So it's making it into the edits episode. But anyways, there's a list that I am working on. This lot, by the way, has been very reminiscent of it has been reminding me left, right, and center of the Sims 2 apartment life. Specifically, there's a social class there called the Gearheads, and this is who I would imagine would be living in these apartments. Aside from the population of Night City, of course, I would imagine that if the Sims 2 cliques and all of that, or social groups, I suppose they call them, was still put in place and still a thing for The Sims 3, the Gearheads would definitely flock to this particular apartment lot. And I wish that, I would have the option to build out Sims 2 style apartments, but you know, that's not the case. That's not the hand that I was dealt for the Sims 3. And yes, I do think it was a bit of a short sight. However, I also think that there is a way to balance it between like shells and hidden rooms and such, but that's a whole other discussion and a conversation I can have another time, and not really right for this video either. But yeah, I was reminded of the Gearheads this whole time. I was just like, yeah, these guys would absolutely tear it up here. Oh yeah, I did want to mention as well that if you are seeing a new billboard or a bunch of billboards here, it's from Cyclonazoo from the Sims resource. And I've mentioned Cyclonazoo's collections before, but he has this one collection for the Sims 3 where you download a billboard, and it has a bunch of variations, and they're all super well done, and I couldn't help myself and I needed to include all of them, so they were all included within this particular build. Specifically on the western wall of the apartment complex, I just pretty much stacked one on top of the other. It kind of gives it a Times Square vibe from New York, and you know, admittedly maybe it is a little misplaced, but it just looks so good, and the wall was so blank. And I wish we had like large graffiti murals, because I would have rather have placed one of those on that particular side of the wall. But anyways, I love these billboards. I'm likely, you know, they just make me want to go back to my other downtown and midtown lots and like look for opportunities to use them. And that's what DLC I think should do, is it should be found throughout your entire world, in my opinion, and because it has a consistent style, and that's the thing that always that always is a value. Sorry, having a consistent style for custom content, especially when it comes to objects, is something that I look for when actually shopping around. And yeah, I'm hoping that I haven't stepped on a slippery slope when it comes to custom content and including it in my builds, because I'm trying to keep it lightly custom, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. The last couple of builds have definitely included some heavier uses of custom content. The apartment unit itself is actually going to be a 3-bedroom and 3-bathroom unit. The intention here is that this lot was always going to host either a larger Sim family or maybe like a group of roommates that are living together. I kind of give options for both as I approach the interior decor here. Now, I really love the lower level. I based this apartment interior style off of the Japantown apartment from the Cyberpunk 2077 game. So that reference was something that really was key for me to it was a key guide for me to use as I was building this out. And I do love the lower level, and I love it to bits and pieces. However, I have to say, like, at the time that I was building out this apartment unit, I thought that I was really going to serve it to you guys, but honestly, like, I was just really fatigued by this build. I have been spending at least 2 or 3 hours a night on this build, and I'm doing that at least 4 days a week. So if we round that up to 3 hours, because that's usually what my playtime is, so if I'm doing it, 3 or 4 times a week, so 3 times, like, I'm putting in like 9 to 12 hours a week into this lot build, and I've been doing it for about 3 or 4 weeks now. So that's a lot of time to put into a build like this, and I knew it was always going to be something that demanded a lot of care and attention. I've said that a million times here, but at this point, I was just so fatigued by this build that I just kind of wanted to get it over with. So I really do stand by the first floor of it. And you know what? To be fair, I stand by the second floor as well. But if there is another edit, and I do apologize for the beeping in the background, I just have a couple of electronics that are doing their own thing as I do my audio recordings. So it's really fun when that happens. Anyways, the one edit that I really need to make to this lot, and I'm sure that you guys are screaming at your screens at right now, is that I put in a fridge. And I don't need to put in a fridge because the food processor unit just automatically generates the food for you. And that was always the intention. I didn't want this lot to be a standard. I wanted to feel like you were playing something a lot more futuristic. And to me, because The Sims 3 Into the Future offers such an object, if you have one of those food processor objects, then like, why would you need a stove and why would you need a fridge? And I'm pretty sure you don't even need a dishwasher either, but I'm going to do a little bit more playtesting for it. It's made its way onto my list here of things to edit whenever I get around to editing all of the Far East Square lots here. But I just wanted to point it out that I didn't realize until after I had built the lot that the fridge was unnecessary, to say the very least. Yes, so back to what I was saying earlier, I did want to incorporate like a little more family living. So in one of the rooms, and you'll see it eventually appear on screen, you'll see me actually build out a nursery, and I don't stand by that nursery at all. In fact, nurseries and bathrooms are two kind of rooms that I really struggle with in terms of in terms of either finding an organic flow or something that sits outside of my comfort zones. So yeah, I don't exactly stand by those, but I guess I'll touch upon that a little later on because we're not there yet. I did also want to mention that the price of this apartment unit is actually very misleading. It says it's something like 200 and so like thousand simoleons, and that is obviously not the case. I later discovered that what was happening was, you know, the parkade structure that I had built in part 1? Well, I gave 2 empty parking lot spaces. Now, normally that's all fine and good. And, you know, you as the player get to choose your own vehicles to place into those parking spaces. However, in the garage mechanic shop, I had a sports car placed and also a future car and Into the Future car placed as well. They don't sit on any parking spaces or anything. They just kind of float there, and they were placed there by Move Objects. And, you know, by the magic of Move Objects on, you can place anything anywhere or almost so. And when you start up your game, those cars will automatically relocate themselves to those empty parking spots in the parkade. So it bumps up the price of the apartment unit to like 200,000 simoleons, which is so shitty. I don't know why it does that. It's a new thing I'm discovering about The Sims 3 here, so I definitely won't make that mistake twice. To be fair, like if I am placing vehicles on a lot, it will usually be a prop vehicle from the University expansion pack in the debug mode. But yeah, this is a case where I did something different and it also reacted differently. So it bumps up your price quite a bit on this one here because I used some expensive cars for both of those. Unfortunately, yes, this is another thing that I have to put on my list for edits for this particular lot here, but I have a feeling that this could lead to larger edits, especially for the garage and the mechanic shop, because those vehicles need to be placed on a parking spot, and I need to figure out how that's going to make sense within that lot. So I'm not really looking forward to editing that lot. In fact, I'm not doing any of the Far East Square neighborhood edits for a little while. It's away, so I won't be revisiting this lot for a while. So, and that's intentional because I just need to step away from this guy. so that's the case. On the second floor, I did put in like kind of like a teenager room / like maybe you have an adult sibling that's living with you at the time. It's kind of like a bad teenager vibe, like, you know, they're a bad kid and all of that, and they're up to no good. And so I really wanted that reflected in the I really wanted it reflected in the decor there. So I decided to give it more of an ominous like magenta to it, and that was kind of the feeling that I got as I was building it out. And I do actually stand by the interior design choices that I was making, with the exception of maybe the juice fountain object. I need to pair that with something, maybe one of those crate chairs that you've been seeing me place all over this lot. But anyways, that was the vibe and feel that I was going for the magenta bedroom. Is just that you got like a bad teenager, maybe you got like a sibling that's living with you that just needs a little bit of help, but they are, you know, a little more chaotic than than, let's just say, like a business person that just, you know, found themselves laid off. Like this is like your sibling that you're either giving money to, or they are trying to become an artist and their parents have kicked them out and you've taken them in. So this is where they're living. So, you know, those kind of stories are able to be told in this particular space, and you're more than welcome to tell them however which way you want. I just decided to make a stronger character choice for it because I just needed to, and I felt that it was much warranted within this particular lot. And because I'm using metal motifs everywhere, the best way to do it, as the cyberpunk influences have taught me, is just to use a specific neon colored light, and that is exactly what I have done. One of my favorite features of this build are actually the metal stairs that I placed in. I felt that those were pretty badass, and so I'm really happy that I decided to take the risk and place the metal stairs within it. Really all it is just some recolored Into the Future stairs, so not much to it. I've already been using like a similar metal pattern throughout this entire build, so it was very easy to just kind of copy and paste it over, really, and it just looks like it belongs, and it just looks absolutely great. It looks badass and I love it, so it stays, and it will definitely not be something that I edit out whenever I get around to editing this episode. And yeah, the fluorescent tubes above the doors that I place are really there just to kind of give it a little bit more intrigue, to add some lighting into the rooms. There's not a lot of futuristic decor, I find, at least, or at least futuristic decor that really fits the look and feel that I'm going for. Maybe that's a more fair thing to say here, but I found that I was really struggling with trying to capture that cyberpunk vibe when it came to this particular interior. Now, I will blame it on the fatigue that I have been experiencing while building this lot. However, it was something that nothing was really jumping out at me, and so I was really struggling here and there with it. Now, eventually you're going to see me start building like the living space outside of the nursery. This was an awkward space to actually decorate, and I kind of did it to myself on purpose. Even though I have done interior designs for awkwardly shaped spaces before, I wanted to make sure that I was breaking out of the norm when doing this particular space as well, which is kind of why we have this shape on the apartment complex, being a container kind of sitting in diagonally against everything else. Like, I don't really play a lot with diagonal walls because it can be hard to actually make your objects fit within them. There was one point where I was really considering it, but it just makes the object placement very awkward, and it makes decor placement very awkward, and door placement awkward. It makes everything awkward when you start working with diagonal walls in The Sims 3 at least. And who knows, maybe they'll do better in future sim life simulation games, but for now, the diagonal walls are something that I tend to avoid at all costs, really. Like in my mansion builds and in my Blue Water Village suburban house builds, like, you won't be finding diagonal walls anywhere. So I've been avoiding them on purpose because they're just awkward to place. There was one point when I was doing the bridge view towers that I was actually considering placing a shell tower on a diagonal, but when I really got into the nitty-gritty of it, it would just make apartment layouts absolutely impossible to work with, and the spaces that they would offer would just be terrible. So yeah, really avoiding diagonal walls where I can. Like, the only times I've really used diagonal walls, I want to say, either in the past or perhaps even in this series, is if the diagonal wall was some sort of a some sort of an exterior feature or even in like an interior feature. Like it's not a space that I would try to furnish, but rather a decorative feature of some kind. So yeah, this was an awkward space to work with. I don't mind challenging myself like that once in a while, and I think I did a pretty good job, to be honest with you. I have to say that the saving grace in all of this was the 70s, 80s, and 90s stuff pack, because the two focal points here really came from those expansion packs. So that's really credit is due where credit is deserved. Almost came out sounding like Barbara Walters there, but yeah, that is it was a space that I kind of struggle with. Like, I'm not entirely sold on it myself, but I do think that it looks nice and it at least looks passable. We'll see. Like, whenever I get around to doing the Far East Square editing episode, which, yeah, I keep talking about it. If I have a stronger vision for this space, I'm definitely going to implement it. But if you guys have suggestions, I'm absolutely going to look at all of the comments before I go back and do those edits. So I will definitely take those into account then as well. To further along the storytelling of the slot, I decided to add a workshop on that balcony there, just for another opportunity to really do a little bit of storytelling. Maybe the breadwinner of the family is an inventor. I kind of mentioned that storyline before. Well, here I am kind of forcing it onto players. This one is your own private workbench. There is another workbench object from Ambitions that is placed in the robotics laboratory. However, that's a bit of a walk from this slot here, and yeah, that I thought you players would enjoy and appreciate having a workshop of your own. So here it is for you. I do stand by, what was I going to say here? I do stand by the little mini office that I designed outside of the master bedroom. So that little desk and computer area is something that I love. I feel like it's a very strong corner of the entire apartment layout and the interiors. So it's going to be one that stays. I decided not to use the Into the Future expansion pack computers because those actually function more like laptops, and Sims will just take them with them wherever they go, and I didn't really want that kind of gameplay, so I decided to place the computer there. In fact, I actually do avoid placing laptops for that very reason. It's because it just ends up in a Sims inventory anyways, and I will lose track of it when they kind of run away without it. Speaking of gameplay, I should also mention that I did do some testing. As I do testing on all my lots, and specifically one thing that I do test for is laundry capabilities and how that looks like. Well, the good news here is that laundry works on this lot. Like, your sim will gather up their laundry and they will take it to the laundromat unit. To the laundromat tenant, I was trying to find the word there. And they will do the laundry perfectly there. So you'll see them, throw it into the bin and then into the washing machine. And then they'll take it up to the clothes hanger and they'll pin it on the rooftop balcony of that laundromat tenant. So good news is that it works like a charm. And that's something that I always test for, because laundry pathway finding can be a little complicated, to say the very least. And because we're offering laundry services on here, I always try to make sure that Sims have the ability to be able to achieve those activities, because once you place like a laundromat or a basket, your Sims start shedding their clothes, and those little clothes piles will definitely annoy folks that don't have the means to take care of them. I will say, like, for the interior decor, just to kind of jump back to that conversation, the metal motifs and the fluorescent colors has really just saved my skin here. I was going through some mad fatigue building out this lot. Like, I just wanted this son of a bitch done at this point. And luckily the apartments aren't too extensive. They're quite simple, but they do need to convey strong choices here and there. So, but the metal motifs, the metal flooring and the metal walls and the fluorescent colored lights, really did the heavy lifting for me, and for that, like, I really appreciate it from this creative choice that I decided to take. I think it's time to wrap up today's speed build, but I am just going to take a moment here just to talk about like what's coming up next in the speed build series here. So we are going to be heading back to Blue Water Village, and we've got another single family home that I would like to build out for you guys. So, you know, no surprises there. I think you guys understand the pattern and the formula that I'm using for this project from here on out. But after that, we get to build out the final lot of the Far East Square neighborhood, and we get to close a chapter there. And I'm very excited because I am excited for the next neighborhood that we're going to be building in, because it finally helps to tie up a loose end and a gap in the cityscape that I have been so desperately wanting to fill. I wish I could do it all at once, but I just simply can't. Anyways, I'm going to leave it here for now. I have organized and edited in an extended tour that will take just a little bit longer, because I've incorporated some pictures from some of the episodes before, but most importantly, I've included some nighttime shots as well, which are really phenomenal. This place looks stunning at night. Anyways, I'm going to just leave it there, and I'm going to say thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this build and this and this hell of a journey that I went on to build this lot for you, feel free to like this video, consider subscribing if you haven't already, and if you have any feedback, you are more than welcome to leave a comment. I will be revisiting this lot in the future. And yeah, with that said, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next sandbox. But for now, have yourselves a wonderful day.